So here's my personal reflection video for the disability simulation. I think overall, my overall experience, it was definitely felt a little uncomfortable and awkward at times, but overall, I think it was really enlightening, especially once I got to hear about my group's experiences as well. Um, I think it's just really provided an overall better understanding of the lives that people with disabilities live every day. So I think that's really cool and important to be insightful on. So I feel like what I learned from this experience and how it's going to make me a better clinician in the future, I learned that oftentimes people are living with and trying to handle more than one diagnosis. So during my simulation, I would often forget that impaired cognition and short-term memory loss were part of my diagnosis. So I had to keep reminding myself of that because it was really hard to remember. Like, it's hard to change your way of thinking, like who you are and what you're capable of in your mind. So I had to keep thinking, okay, what would this experience be like for somebody who has short-term memory loss? Um, so I had to keep thinking of that. Um, I think this realization will make me a better clinician because it's going to help me to keep in mind that all functional aspects of the client need to be addressed, not just the primary diagnosis that they've come to us for. I think it's going to help me to have a more holistic view of my clients and make sure the interventions I plan are appropriate for addressing all of their functional needs. Because you could have something, you could develop an intervention plan that maybe is great in addressing their primary diagnosis, but then doesn't take into account their secondary diagnosis. And so it could end up not being a great treatment plan for them because you didn't consider them holistically and who they are as a person. So when it comes to ADL and IADL processes, I think I learned that they were more difficult than they normally are for me at my baseline. So with a diagnosis of hemianopsia, I couldn't drive safely, and it was more difficult to communicate via written word. It was really difficult to write and read as well. So normally I don't have to think twice about having to drive somewhere. I just hop in my car and go, or sending an email or a text to someone I need to communicate with. So, and then due to weakness from the CVA, I had to use the straight cane to walk, and this limited my functional mobility and my ability to engage in activities like working out at the gym or just like cooking in the kitchen. Normally, both my legs would be perfectly functional with optimal strength and range of motion. So typically, I can engage in those activities with ease. And so it was really interesting to see how much more difficult those things become with this disability. So for me, the most challenging part of this simulation was definitely the social emotional aspect of the experience. I tend to play it safe as a person. I'm not a huge risk taker, so doing something that I knew would draw attention to me made me feel exposed and a little insecure. And I think this is really going to help me empathize with my future clients because I will, in a sense, to a certain degree, know how they feel when someone stares at them or asks insensitive questions about their disability, since I just experienced that. Obviously not on the same level, but it's enough that it's really going to help me have more insight onto what they experience and how it makes them feel. Personally, I don't think that this assignment is controversial because it's an educational experience, and I think we really needed that as students, as occupational therapy students. The whole point of it to me was to become more aware and conscious of how people live with disabilities every day, um, and that this is their like normal day-to-day thing that oftentimes we don't take the time to understand. So it really was helpful in better understanding barriers that people with disabilities experience every day and empathize with them. So one day as practitioners, we can be more understanding and provide more meaningful and sensitive care to our clients with disabilities. So in terms of going through the process of going out into the community to get food and stuff for this cooking part, making a shopping list was slightly difficult since I had the right visual field cuts, so I really had to take my time. One of my roommates drove me to the grocery store because it would not have been safe for me to do it myself. I felt a little self-conscious in the grocery store while I was shopping because I could tell people were like giving me glances because I had the walker, and then I know this wouldn't be the case for someone who actually has this diagnosis, but I had the glasses with the blacked out parts, so they looked at me funny, so that made me feel a little like, I'm sorry that I look weird to you. But then that's what people with disabilities experience. So, and the other thing was I had to turn my head all the way to the right before I walked in that direction because of the lack of peripheral vision in my right eye. And I was really worried about running into someone or something. So once I got home with the groceries, I started to prep. I made kielbasa, a loaded baked potato, and mixed vegetables. And so I needed a pot, pan, tongs, serving spoon, plate, knife, and fork. So having a CVA resulted in decreased balance, coordination, and strength. So navigating the kitchen was a lot more difficult because there were a lot of tasks I had to just sit down for, and I had to get up and down a lot. So I had to keep things stable on the stove, like with one hand, so things weren't spilling. And then when I was sitting, I needed to find a place to put my straight cane so that my roommates weren't running into it and hurting themselves because I like left my cane out in the middle of the room. And so I thought having an adapted rocker knife would have allowed me to stay in the standing position a little bit longer, which would have been really helpful. So then my frame of reference focused on identifying specific cognitive impairments I had. So that was the short-term memory loss, and working on that specific issue with therapeutic exercises to improve function. And so this differs from my group's theory of occupational adaptation because this approach would look to adapt my environment so I could participate with my short-term memory loss instead of just trying to fix it. I would need to utilize task-specific assessments like MOCA to determine cognitive functioning, and then focus intervention on improving with cognitive exercises to promote better interaction within the community. The group theory takes a more holistic approach to treatment than my individual frame of reference and allows for more meaningful participation in activities that actually matter to me rather than me just being stuck carrying out mundane tasks that I find insignificant and unmotivating. So I would utilize an occupation-based model such as PEO to guide my assessment and intervention, and then adapt the environment based on those findings. So someone with deficits could better interact in the community, whether it be providing adapted equipment or advocating for better accessibility in the community. And then lastly, I said that I think what could make this assignment even better for students is taking, along with the pictures, maybe taking short, like 20 to 30-second videos um, of these particular encounters in stores or in a recreational facility. So then you can see it in action, what changes the student had to make to be successful in the task and environment. So I think it'd be cool to have every student pick one of their short videos to show the class so everyone could see what it's like and learn from it. Because I know a lot of people were saying, I wish we could do all of them. We could each like experience all the different ones. And I think with time limitations and realistically speaking, it'd be cool to at least have a time where we could all watch each other's videos to get a better understanding. So there's my video. Thanks.